All right, Coach Brewer, I appreciate you coming out and taking some time to meet with me, as well as take some coaching from me. I appreciate that. And I know we were kind of sideswiped with this COVID-19 mess, and I know I came in and interviewed you and observed your classroom that Friday, and I noticed an introduction to what the project was. Wanted to talk more about it. So I just wanted to talk about our lesson. I noticed you were going over World War One, talking about alliances and World War One technologies. Personally, I'm more of an econ government type guy, so it was kind of different for me, but it was very interesting. Right. You seem like you got a lot of good kids, and from previous courses, I know we actually collaborated one class for world history, so I know what to expect out of your class. But we're all in this to improve, right?
Yep.
All right. So after looking through your video, we watched it and we observed some things. I have some questions I wanted to ask you to kind of identify our goal that we're working towards. So the first one, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the worst lesson you've taught and 10 being the best lesson you taught, how would you rank this previous lesson?
I would probably rank it a 6. And one thing that I consistently have trouble with is getting all my kids in each group to pitch in and do their share. He's always, and I'm sure you can attest to this a lot of times, it's always 2 or 3 doing the work and 1 or 2 that's not doing the work.
Right.
So that was really the biggest thing for me. I need to do a better job of accountability, if you will.
Right.
But other than that, I think the kids enjoyed the project.
Absolutely. Now, what were you pleased most about the lesson?
A lot of the content that a lot of these groups were able to come up with. One of the things that they would do is talk about technology as well as a tactic in World War One, and they had a variety of things they could do, a choice board of sorts. And the one thing a lot of them did was a catchy commercial, and just see the creativity during that catchy commercial was pretty cool.
Okay. Is there any any application or Web 2.0 tool that you use for those presentations?
Absolutely. Adobe Spark is a big one that we use. Flipgrid's another big one that we use. That was part of the choice board on both of those that they could select and make happen.
Okay. Well, perfect. So I know you mentioned the 6. That's kind of hard on yourself, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, I just don't know if a full accountability was there, and I would say 85% of my students, were involved, were wanting to get things done, enjoyed it. And then, it's always that 10% or so out of 130 kids.
Right.
That's just not as motivated to do things. And then you have the other selection of kids that are motivated to do stuff, but are their personalities are the shy type. And so they don't take the reins and lead. So I'd really like to create a situation where it forces them out of their comfort zone and really give them more direct things to do inside of the groups, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know a big thing just in modern education is trying to get these kids engaged.
Right.
Now you kind of get that conflict with World War One being so long ago. You try to make it relevant to where it's interesting to kids, and I think some activities that you're mentioning with Spark and recordings and commercials and all that, it's interesting, and I feel like it could be very engaging.
Right.
We talked about before, we're trying to identify a goal here, and we're trying to focus on engagement, and I think this is a good start. Now, so what do you think you could do differently to make this lesson a 10 instead of a 6?
Right. I think instead of giving them an assignment, for example, instead of saying, all right, this group here, which I grouped them based off of data that I have in my class, instead of saying, okay, you 5 here are going to give me a tactic of World War One. You can use any of these, whether it's a catchy commercial or some type of presentation, I don't care, and turn it in. I think it would be more appropriate if I say, okay, hey, Johnny, you're doing this. Beth, you're doing this.
Right.
Jimmy, you're doing this. And then you guys need to compile it together as one. But I need to see that you have done your part and contributed to the project as a whole.
Right. So, to tie into that, so as we're focusing on engagement here. So with kids being outside of your classroom, How's that working? How are they working collaboratively?
Right. Well, a big push in our school system, as you know, is Google Docs. So a lot of my kids are really collaborating on Google Docs. I encourage it. And that's another downfall of a project. And I really wouldn't say that I base myself on a 6 based on this, but it's a challenge, Tyler, especially that you know as well. Not all of our kids have access to internet outside of school.
Absolutely.
So I've done before and after internet sessions in the media center, before school, after school, I should say.
Great.
And you know, if we're running into internet problems or lack of engagement out of specific students, because a lot of them are embarrassed to tell that, you know, what their obstacles are at home.
Sure.
You know, I kind of get a good idea of who's working and who's engaged and not, and then I create, you know, office hours, if you will, in the media center where there is access to that. Also, lunch hour is a good time for them to grab some lunch and then come to the media center.
Absolutely. That's good. I like the incentive there. So what do you think your students can do differently to get to that 10 level? I know we mentioned before what you can do personally. What do you think your students can do differently, especially at a time like this, being at home?
Yeah, right. Well, you know, I think the biggest thing is a lot of them are scared to venture off of Canvas, which is really our main platform,
That's right.
and really try new things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know, Kennesaw State obviously pushes Web 2.0, you know, productivity tools, and it's nice to be pushed out of that comfort zone. So I think the biggest thing for our kids, especially with the unique circumstances that we're under, the more that they can, you know, almost be forced into trying new tools, which I have done with my, you know, world history classes a lot, is I'm giving them a new productivity tool, Web 2.0 tool, you know, almost every class session they have on me, and they have to try it out and experiment. A lot of them are able to bring in good work, and a lot of others put in minimal effort or really don't understand it.
Right.
But, you know, we're just going to keep grinding and pushing toward that.
That's great. So you mentioned Web 2.0 tools, and that's awesome. That's actually one thing that we're emphasizing here with the similar program. We're actually in the same program, so it's good that, you know, I'm able to have the opportunity to coach you. Then you may have the opportunity to coach me.
Right.
So I know you mentioned Web 2.0 tools. Tell me some Web 2.0 tools that you feel most comfortable with to presenting to your students during this time.
Right. Well, you know, a lot of that we work Canva. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. We do a lot of Adobe Spark. My kids have actually learned how to do Adobe Spark and create a variety of things. Nearpod is one of the biggest things that we use in my class. We've really gotten away from the traditional PowerPoints, if you will. And my students, man, they can create a Nearpod way better than I can. And so I encourage them to do a lot of projects through Nearpod, and you know, put the quizzes in and put, you know, the graphics in and all that stuff. ThingLink's another incredible tool, you know, where they can create stuff. You click it and it shows you different things. So, you know, those are really the main ones that I've introduced since this virus has really hit, and these challenges are upon us. And, you know, the kids seem, for the most part, to get it and enjoy it.
That's great. So let me ask you this. How can we measure this goal? How can we measure this change? So you know that your students are working on this and they're working on all these productivity Web 2.0 tools. How are you going as a teacher about grading and measuring this? How do you know if they actually mastered that goal?
Right. Well, you know, it's difficult. And as you know, in a lot of school systems around here, we're really unsure about our grading situation at the moment. And we're waiting from word from the top down, you know, are we, you know, how much responsibility were we putting on the kids because of the challenges I told you about earlier that you know about. You know, so where do we go? So I am lenient with my grading is what I'm getting at. You know, I want to see effort. And honestly, man, just to be completely honest, we're such a new arena right now, and I'm really hurting for the kids as well as the teachers. I just need to see effort. And, you know, if I say, give me, you know, 6 or 7 slides on Nearpod, and they're able to get close to that and just showed me that they opened up the application, they've created an account, and they've went through it and put in some effort. Dude, I'm really going off of effort right now. And, we may transition away from that depending on where the top dogs tell us. But for right now, it's it's all effort, and I'm getting that from pretty much 90% of them, I would say.
Right. That's great. I'm glad that your kids are being more engaged outside of the classroom, learning all these new tools. Not necessarily feel like they're forced to, but in essence, they're strongly encouraged to do that because they know they're getting assessed by that, and I think that's a good benchmark. So I know.
And on the flip grid, just as an example, I do get minimal effort there. A lot of them don't want to show their faces,
Right.
And I'm sure you've seen that with
Yes.
some of the flip grade assignments. And it's
Right.
like, so like the other day I had them do a cause and effect of World War I.
Mm-hmm.
Give me 4 of them. Well, they're constantly blocking the camera, have it pointing at a cat, and
Right.
it's really not a good it's not really what I'm looking for in a presenter. So
Right.
so I am giving feedback on that. I am forcing them out of their comfort zone and grading them on, if you were standing in front of me, are you going to be blocking your face?
Right.
And so those are the things I'm kind of talking about as opposed to content for right
Good.
now.
That's good. So let's go ahead and identify a goal here as we progress into this coaching process. So let's say, okay, so you have a total of 20 students in your classroom. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's say out of 20 students, 18 out of 20 can explain their World War I technology, whichever they chose for the project, in no more than a 5-minute presentation.
Right.
90% mastery. I mean, I think that's very feasible. You mentioned Adobe Spark. You mentioned Flipgrid, and some other things that I could talk about. I know you mentioned Canva. That's a great resource. You can do some sort of infographic. And I know a lot of classrooms are going more into the Zoom meeting, just like we are right now. We can do this. You can do this individually. You can meet with students individually, get a 5-minute timer, and they can simply explain their content just to know that they mastered whatever they're talking about. And I think it's good. I think it's good that we're forcing, I wouldn't say forcing, but you get where I'm going there.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
encouraging these kids to, be able to explain it to us. There's kids in the back of the classroom, kids in the front of the classroom that don't want to talk. And I think this is a great way, especially if it's one-on-one, just like this. I think this is a great way to assess your students, work on your benchmark, and then also progress towards your goal. I think that's good.
That's fantastic.
So do you want that to be your goal?
I do. I think that's a fantastic goal, and I think it's an attainable goal. It's challenging but attainable, and I'm all for it.
Absolutely. Of course, we want to strive for the 2020, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course.
All right. So let me ask you this: if you could hit that goal, would it really matter to you as a professional educator?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like you being a coach, I'm competitive.
Right.
And so the competitive nature may not be first on my list, but it's always there. So it's important for me to set a goal and reach it. But more so than that, this is for the kids, and it means something for me that they're going to be able to take the information that I'm teaching them and apply it to college or whatnot. Because I took a entire history class on World War I. When I went to Emmanuel College. I mean, that was a semester-long class, World War I.
Right.
So I need them to understand the ones that want to go to college, they may encounter this same thing in history,
exactly.
Even as a specific class. And it's important they know this, and how important was World War I in our country on top of that. So I think I'm all about that goal, all about it.
That's great. Now, what teaching strategy can you use to hit your goal?
Well, that's where I probably need, a little help. I do try to differentiate and bring in a variety of tools, ways to teach, how I group my kids. It's like I said probably before, is how I'm making sure I'm confident, Tyler, that I can get 5 or 6 on that goal to do it. How can I get those 3 to get me to 8 that are the shy personalities, or the ones that really teeter on the edge and kind of want to do it but kind of don't?
Right.
How can I get those kids to buy in? And I could get to that 8. So I'm all for suggestions on how I could reach that.
Right. Well, first, I think the way to incentivize those kids is come up with some competition. Have extra credit or some sort of prize to where it's attainable and it's feasible to get those kids involved. And it may be something cliche that they like, but kids love that.
Right.
Awesome. And Also, I think what's very, imperative would be something like scaffolding. I teach, you teach, we teach. So if you want for the World War I technology project, I know you mentioned you have to select whatever technology you choose. You have to explain which alliance used it and how they used it. Just provide an example yourself. You mentioned the Web 2.0 tools. You can use those in an example. You can record yourself simply 5 minutes and just kind of show them, hey, this is what's expected and this is what I need. And correct me if I'm wrong, this assignment's a week long, correct?
Absolutely, week long.
So perfect. And kids can work on that. Nearpod, Adobe Spark, Flipgrid, anything. But I think that'd be a good way to culminate this project and
Awesome.
produce quality work.
Would you recommend Kahoot? As far as some of the gaming aspect, competitive gaming.
Absolutely. If you want to review some content, I believe that's an easy way. Kahoot quizzes, some of that aspects. We have the fortunate ability to have our kids during our essentially class period times. That'd be a great time to do that, to not only review your content, but also give you a chance to provide an example of what you expect from them.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect. So I believe we hit everything that I needed to know. I appreciate you reaching out and willing to collaborate with me and just introduce some coaching. So the next 2 sessions that we have, we're going to talk more about our next steps, and then we're going to focus on how we're going to attain this goal, and hopefully throughout this process we both can improve as educators.
Absolutely, dude. I really appreciate all your help, and it's going to help me a lot. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, all right. Well, you have a good one, and I will keep in touch with you. All right.
Awesome. Yep. See you later.
See you, Coach. Thanks.